We're going to be discussing a broad array of issues. But in addition to the serious work, we are also going to have a lot of fun in Diani, starting with golf and a lot of beach activities.
Good afternoon. This is Lunchtime News. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Jackie Wimbiro and our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. And now we shall be taking a look at various issues across the country, and we shall be updating you. And to kick us off, we shall be taking a look at matters relating to title deeds, where the national government has pledged to solve their perennial land problems by providing land title deeds across several counties. Land Cabinet Secretary Zakaria Njeru says residents of marginalized counties such as Tana River will soon start receiving land titles as a way of addressing historical injustices that denied locals the document.
A report by the Kenya Land Alliance showed that Kenyans acquired a total of 3.2 million titles issued between 2013 and 2017. To that end, the government says it is adamant to increase the number of landowners.
Jambo ambalo nataka kuhakikishia na tuko hapa na viongozi wote wanaohusika na hii sekta ya ardhi, ni tuweze kuona kwamba wananchi wanapata haki yao.
Speaking after holding a series of meetings in Gamba and Danisa areas of Gasen constituency with the National Lands Commission and members of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Lands, it emerged that the issue of group ranches and settlements in areas like Tana River, created immediately after independence, was still a thorn in the flesh.
Sisi kama wanasalama tunahitaji title deed zetu. Tena title deed zetu tunataka zaidi kila mtu apate title deed yake.
Tunataka utuletee officers ambao kwa watatumalizia, kwa sababu land issues zimeshikana na mambo ya security. Kama ingekuwa tumemaliza mambo ya registration ya land Tana River, huwezi kusikia pengine kuna matatizo.
So tunaomba tu watu waandikishwe hii makaratasi ili watu waweze kuwa na urithi wao wenyewe.
Currently, the public is required to provide information and queries to government land offices, which the government in turn hopes to use in streamlining title issuing programs.
On matters education, youths in Kiambu County can now benefit through a sponsorship program organized by Kiambu Constituency Fund to offer short life skill courses at Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology. Kiambu Town Member of National Assembly John Mashwa Waithaka stressed the need to equip young people with technical skills that will aid them cope in the ever-changing job market.
Speaking at Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology during an open career day for students and residents, Kiambu Town MP John Mashwa Waithaka lauded the government for having capitation programs for students in TVET institutions, saying this has helped them acquire necessary skills for the job market.
I want these people with skills, skills like plumbing, electrical, cookery, carpentry, and this is where they can get those that proper training. So we want it to remain as such.
Since 2018, we have been having quite a good reception of TVET, One of the things is that we have marketed the TVET courses, we have improved our institutions, and most importantly, the government has made TVET very available.
Students and residents who attended the Open Career Day lauded the initiative, terming it as an eye-opener on career choices.
Kulingana na Kenya nimesoma, nimeona kazi ya mikono ndo nzuri kuliko kazi ya kuketi kwa ofisi, sababu kazi ya mikono inafanya akili yako ikuwe hatua.
I've learned a lot in physics, in biology, and some languages, and also about making my creativity be bigger, because this world is all about your imagination and building your creativity.
Among activities that were undertaken at the Open Day was career guidance for visiting students from other secondary schools and showcasing of technical programs that are taught at the college. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
In other news, irate residents of Kisa East Ward in Kakamega County stormed Emasasi Police Station and made away with 1,240 bags of fertilizer meant for distribution to farmers. The residents who were protesting the murder of the area MCA Stephen Maloba also torched the house and motorbike of Kisa East Chief Walter Obuchere and slaughtered 3 cows. So far, police have recovered 20 bags of fertilizer. Chiefs in the region are calling for the deployment of more security officers to restore calm.
Jamii yetu ama sisi kama Wakenya tusipochunga vizuri pali jamii yetu inaelekea sio pali mzuri. Wale vijana ambao waliingia hapo kwangu ni vijana wadogo sana. Hata watoto ambao wako junior secondary, hata watoto ambao wako primary, wako form 1, form 2 ndio walikuwa wanapiga mawe kwa hii nyumba. Na watu wazima walikuwa nyuma yao wanaangalia. Mimi sina tofauti yoyote ya ubinafsi na mheshimiwa ni ndugu yangu. Tulifanya naye kazi akiwa councilor. Tena tumefanya naye kazi wakati amechaguliwa kuwa MCA. Na sisi kama machifu kazi yetu ni kufanya na wale watu wamechaguliwa na wananchi.
The investigations are on and very soon we are going to get the culprits. The CID counterparts are doing their part, and I'm informed that the investigation is progressing well.
A section of women professionals have challenged fellow women to take up peace-building roles in society and be at the forefront in quelling political tension, threatening cohesion in the country. Speaking during a women's celebration event, East African Community Deputy Director in charge of Political Integration, Sarah Ogongo, termed women as important agents in creating stability and called for more inclusivity and participation at the decision-making table. The women professionals also call for continuous empowerment of the female gender to ensure more women's voices are heard.
For these wonderful guests that are here, so there will be...
Women have a role to play in maintaining peace and security. Even at regional level, we have programs where we encourage that partner states involve women in peace building. Anytime there's a conflict, actually it's the women and the children who suffer. So anytime you hear of demonstrations or anything that disrupts the peace, then we are the ones who are more afraid than the men.
The second most important thing is really diversity of thought and the beauty of having different women and men and different cultures in the conversation is diversity always brings us a better solution. So I think the importance of empowering women to speak up.
It's harder for a woman to give up and say, I'm angry, this is too much for me, I'm done, you know? And so in this government, we do need a lot of emotional intelligence. We do need to learn how to manage our emotions so that we don't take things very personal, so that we don't go in the streets and throw stones when we're supposed to be sitting and deliberating on issues. And so looking at the woman and her heart and what kind of a person she is, very resilient, then that's how you bring her to the table.
When you give a woman the opportunity to sit on the table of leadership and give their insights on how to cater for the needs of the society, I can assure you that the world is going to change, and even the current government is going to be able to embrace them and even see better impacts, especially in the economy.
A 58-year-old woman in Kithioko location in Machakos County has accused the local administration of allegedly colluding with a member of her family to evict her from a piece of land given to her by her parents. Penina's sister Mutie, who fears being rendered homeless, is pleading with the government to intervene and protect her, saying the local administration is already compromised.
58-year-old Penina's sister Mutie from Kangundu village in Kithioko location, Machakos County, is unable to grow crops on her parcel of land. This is due to an ongoing family land dispute.
Nalilia serikali ingilie ndio wanitafutia amani. Kwa maana mvua inyesha na hakuna mahali naweza kulimia watoto. Nyasi ninachunga mpaka usiku na nimenyang'anywa.
The single mother of one says her trouble started few months after their mother died as she started receiving threats over the said piece of land.
Wamemnyang'anya sasa shamba yote. Saizi hakuna mahali tunaweza palilia. Mvua imenyesha, watu wale wengine wameshalima na hakuna mahali tumeshalima sisi. Juu ya hiyo shinda. Sasa shida yao sasa ni wanataka kuuza ndio wangawanye waenda wanunue mashamba mahali pengine.
Tumeona hata ng'ombe zake zinakula hapa na niko na miezi 3 zinakula usiku na mchana, na hiyo nyasi siwezi nikauza. Huyu ni mtoto mchanga, niko na mwingine ako shule. Serikali inasema watoto wazikae kwa nyumba.
Mutie is urging the government to protect her from being evicted from her land as her efforts to seek help from the local administration have not borne fruit.
Mimi nimepeleka report Masinga kwa DCI, alafu kwa Deputy Commissioner. Nikakuta jina la kijana ya huyu ndugu na chief ndio walienda huko, alafu wakaenda wakapindua ile green field ya shamba la mamangu ikaandikwa ndugu yangu.
Benchumba, Lunchtime News.
Stakeholders and parents living with autistic children are decrying lack of proper facilities to accommodate the rising number of autistic children. They now want the government to prioritize the welfare of autistic children by setting up social amenities that include learning and medical care facilities that will enhance their development.
The 2nd of April each year is a day set aside for the observance of World Autism Awareness, a day that is about acceptance, support, and advocating for their rights and inclusion. We meet Elizabeth Akoth, a parent to an autistic child, and narrates to us the ups and downs of raising her child.
My son, when he was growing up, I get like my neighbors, this acceptance. My son is that hyper. He keeps on running off, hugging, laughing. So you find these neighbors that sometimes they do get irritated, agitated. Like, this boy, can't he be controlled? Why does he just come hug us like that? So you have to explain to the neighbors, this kid is like this, like that. But most of them don't get it at all. Lack of awareness.
Her plea to the government is for intervention by putting up amenities that will help their children to grow and develop both socially and mentally.
Live that will accommodate him. You know, every time you knock, you are told, how is the kid? He's autistic. Oh, Tariq is branded. It's like, we cannot accommodate such kind of child. He'll be violent to the others. How will you control him?
Sentiments shared by William Diaga, a teacher for autistic children.
Learners usually have to control their diet, but where do we get the resources? The resources are very few. The parents are struggling with their life, and now telling a parent to have that restricted diet for learners with autism is a big challenge.
Caroline Evelyn Kisuge of Jonathan Rays of Hope, an organization that champions for the rights and welfare of autistic children, emphasized the need for government to prioritize the needs of autistic children that will in turn ease the burden of parents living with them.
Therapy is expensive for most of the parents, and it is a big challenge because it is through therapy that makes the children with autism achieve their delayed developmental milestone.
People suffering from autism have difficulty in socialization, communication and interaction, and is majorly associated with restricted or repetitive behaviors or interests. Their ways of learning, moving or paying attention are distinct from other people.
Kenya is set to launch its first operational observational satellite into space in its bid to provide the country with timely and regular data in fields such as agriculture, food security, and general environmental monitoring. Acting Director of the Kenya Space Agency, Brigadier Hilary Kipkoskei, says the mission will put Kenya on the global map for its contribution to the growth of satellite engineering and socio-economic development.
The satellite, dubbed Taifa 1, is set to improve the country's monitoring capabilities as well as land use mapping in the fight against natural disasters.
Accurate weather forecasting information, up to 14 days weather forecast, accurate. And that is information that Mama Mboga there in the village in Kisii can go into, click a link and input the county, input the sub-county, include the ward. And that Mama Mboga will be able to see accurate weather information for the next 14 days. I think that is valid. That is where we are going.
Further, we want to spur interest in the country. So far, all the satellite imagery we use in the country is foreign. And it is not cheap as it comes. The ones that are free are not very high resolution.
The Kenya Space Agency is set to launch the first operational 3U Earth observation satellite, Taifa 1 satellite, on April 11th, 2023, and will be aided by Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, SpaceX, in Vandenberg Base, California, aboard Falcon 9 rocket.
The reason why we are using the launch facility in North America is because that is the nearest route to the orbit that we are targeting. Because this is a small satellite, we are not launching it alone. We are launching it on a ride-share program with other users or other customers.
Taifa 1 Sat is a stepping stone to the development of what is planned to be a constellation of small Earth observation satellites for Kenya.
Tasking a satellite and acquiring an imagery at will at the time that we want. And if we see the need, if we appreciate the importance of that or the value of that, then we can, invest in more capable systems.
It is also a capacity building effort for Kenya's engineers in space systems engineering, space operations, ground receiver station operations, mission control, and satellite data acquisition and processing, among others. Kenya's development in space systems engineering capabilities began with the design, development, and eventual successful launch of the first Kenya University nano-satellite, Precursor Flight 1 Kunz PF. The satellite was jointly developed by the University of Nairobi and the Sapienza University of Rome, with launch support offered by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency and the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs. Alan Oko, Lunchtime News.
And now we cross over to Kitengela, where prison reforms are being deliberated, where we shall be joining our reporter Zainab Said, who is currently on standby with the PS Correctional Services, Mary Mothoni. Zainab, kindly bring us to speed.
Good afternoon, Jackie Wambiru. As you rightly put it, we are at Kitengela prison, where today the PS Correctional Services, Madam Mary Muthoni, was doing a familiarized trip at the prison just to assess the situation of this particular prison in Kitengela. And remember, during his her vetting also, she mentioned that decongestion of prisons is one of keen interest that she was going to focus on. So just to go straight, she's right besides me. I'll just talk to her so that she just tells us more on why we are here today.
Thank you so much. We are here at Kitengela Prison today. And it's one of the many rounds that we are making across the country just to do an assessment of what is required and what is there, to see it for myself and to know what is supposed to be done. Kitengela, the rehabilitative programs that we have here are very key to the offenders. If anything, we want offenders when they walk out of here and we are doing our reintegration, it is a seamless reintegration. Other than when they go out there and they have nothing to do. And we have already done much more. I want to congratulate the officer. They have done a very good job in Kitengela. Yes, we know about our decongestion program, which is ongoing, and we have seen some data, even what His Excellency has pronounced in the recent past, which we will give it time until we do it properly. So it is a collaborative effort between ourselves, the judiciary, and the government at large. We want to see our prisons decongesting more, removing more from the prison, and adding none. And that is why we are also including the national government administrative officers and equally the police to be part and parcel of this conversation on the ground, that we can also preach to our villages, we can preach to our towns, to our estates, that alternative dispute resolution is the way to go. The very first thing that you get offended by someone, it's not getting angry, it's not taking the law into your hands, but having an alternative way to have the dispute settled and not necessarily going to the court. If we can all have that, then it will be a very important thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Jackie, as you've heard it, she is the PS Correctional Services, Madam Mary Muthoni, just saying that they are here to assess the situation, just to inform the policies and even the decisions that will be made from here going forward. Back to you in studio, Jackie Wambiru.
Thank you so much. That is our reporter Zainab Said from Kitengela Prisons, giving us an update on the prison reforms. Now we shall be crossing over to Diani, where the Connected Summit 2023 is currently underway. Remember, it is dubbed Digital Economy, Endless Opportunities Shaping Our Future. And our reporter O'Brien Kimani is currently on standby. O'Brien, kindly give us a detailed report.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Jacqueline Wambiru, back there in Broadcasting House. As you can see here, I'm surrounded by the public sector's top minds when it comes to the ICT as well as digital matters and broadcasting as well. And we just want to recap on what has just happened. Remember, the 2023 Connected Summit has just happened. And of course, a lot of reactions, are coming through, and of course, policy issues. And those are the issues that we want to discuss here and see what exactly are we taking this country in terms of ICT. Well, joining me on the set is Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, CS. He's going to guide us through this process and, of course, as we find out more on what is happening. Thank you very much indeed, Bona CS, for joining us. You really talked about the collaboration between the public and the private sector in driving digitization as well as digitalization of government services. Would you want to expound further on that?
Yeah, first of all, first of all, before I get to that, let me explain the rationale of this summit. We are gathered here for the 12th edition of the Connected Summit as members of the ICT fraternity to take stock of what we have achieved so far. Look at the challenges that we have faced and the strategic issues emanating from those challenges, the gaps that we have witnessed, and discuss what we need to do to close those gaps, the lessons that we have learned, and how those lessons can inform our planning framework moving forward, the critical success factors moving forward, and what our areas of focus should be as an ICT sector. This is the 12th edition of this summit, and the propositions, resolutions, and action points emanating from this summit will go a long way in enriching our policy framework and agenda moving forward. Yes.
Very good.
This summit is part and parcel of a process through which we bring both the ministry and the private sector to think together. It is integral that as government we work in partnership with the private sector. Almost all the programs and activities that we intend to roll out in the ICT sector will be undertaken through a partnership between the public sector and the private sector. And it is in this regard that we have got a critical stakeholder segment from the private sector in this forum. Yes.
Do we have any defined role what the private sector will do vis-a-vis the public sector?
Well, starting with the digital superhighway, which is a thematic area in our Kenya Kwanza plan, we intend to roll out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable. As government, we are only doing 52% of that. The private sector, we envisage, will do the remaining 48%. We have already sat down with the private sector as government and agreed on who is playing what role as far as implementation of the digital superhighway is concerned, with clear responsibility centers, clear expected outputs, clear outcomes, and clear targets. So we are very clear on who needs to play what role as far as the digital superhighway is concerned. Yeah.
And some of these projects that you are planning to undertake, they will require legislative reforms and as well as policy reforms. Yes. Who are you engaging in this journey?
The starting point is here. That's exactly what we are doing. We are taking stock of emerging issues in the operational environment based on recent changes. You know, we are operating in a very dynamic operational environment. That dynamism in the operational environment will necessitate that, depending on unfolding trends from time to time, we look at our policies and legislative agenda. Where we have got laws, but those laws have become obsolete, we need to review them. Where we have got policies which are becoming redundant, we need to review the policies. Where there are emerging issues that may necessitate that we come up with new policies and legislative reforms, we will do that. And that is why in this very forum, we have got representation from the Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, so that if there are emerging issues that will require legislative reforms, then we work in partnership with Parliament as an integral stakeholder to ensure that those laws are put in place.
Okay, and what about, before I let you go, what is the role of the county government in this? Because they are supposed to be the catalyst of economic and social growth at the micro level.
Let me mention from the onset that there is nothing we will be doing as government which we will not be implementing in a given county. The Constitution is very clear that as much as we have got two levels of government, there has to be collaboration and partnership between those two levels of government. As we embark on the process of digitization of records and digitalization of services, correspondingly, we need to see the same taking place at the levels of the county government. That is why we have already had a forum last week with the ICT Committee of the Council of Governors to look at ways and means through which we can synergize and facilitate effective alignment between the interventions we are introducing at the national government level and what correspondingly they need to do at the county government level, so that we have got a seamless transition from manual processes to digitalized services across the entire country.
Very good. And as Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, we are just here, and of course we are here in the long term to ensure that all this information is forwarded to the public, and of course the exposure that this information needs is definitely broadcasted to the public.
Effective communication is a critical success factor in whatever we are doing. We must constantly communicate to the public so that they understand what we are doing and why, and the progress that we are making. So we will be looking forward also to partnering with you people in the communication space so that you disseminate the activities and programs and the outputs that we are achieving depending on unfolding events from time and as time progresses.
Very good. Thank you very much, Bonasias, for joining us here.
Thank you too. It was indeed my pleasure.
Thank you.
And thanks a lot also to the team that we have here. We have got the PS ICT, Engineer John Tanui. We have the PS Communication, Professor Edward Kisangani. We have got the Chair of the ICT Committee of Parliament, John Kiare. We have got the Chairman of ICTA, Mr. Honorable Maritim. We have the CEO of ICTA here, Stanley Kamanguya, and also the Acting CEO of Konza, Mr. Okwiri. We are all working together to facilitate and pursue this to a logical conclusion.
Very good. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Very good. I mean, you have had it all from the policymakers at the top level in government. The future of ICT in this country must be said to be green. It must be said to be beautiful. It must be said to be great going forward. And we have just heard it from the CS in charge of information communication as well as the digital economy, joining us here live on KBC so that he can help us understand where are we going as a country in matters ICT as well as the digital economy. My name is O'Brien Kimani. I'm taking you back to Broadcasting House where Jacqueline Wambiru will continue with the rest of the bulletin.
Well, thank you so much, O'Brien Kimani there from Diani, where the Connected Summit 2023 is currently underway. Earlier on, he was speaking to Eliud Owalo, who is the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. Remember, the summit brings together regional and global ICT industry leaders, policymakers, global ICT industry leaders, financiers, innovators, among others, and it aims to take stock of achievements so far, the challenges and the way forward. Well, we shall be taking a short break right now. Don't go too far, we still have more news coming up.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hii ya kibeti, bonyeza *811 *962#.
Aki umefanya vizuri sana kunipigia hii simu sasa. Nimekuwa na stress kutoka asubuhi kabisa. Na ni huyu mtu ambaye alikuwa anapatiana majina ya vitu. Kwani hakutufikiria sisi watu wa Eastern Ukambani? Ni nani alisema ati wife kwa Kiswahili ni mke? Na akasema ati handbaka. Hii inabebwa na mwanamke handbaka. Ati kwa Kiswahili ni kibeti. Huko kwetu mke ndiye kibeti.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya kibeti, bonyeza *811 *962#. *811 *962#.
I felt so guilty that I decided to confess everything to her.
Did she believe that?
Mm-hmm. She believes it for now.
I forgive you. I once told you whatever mistake you make in this life, I will always forgive you. I really meant that.
Who are you? Are you Charlene or Jenny? Who are you?
Harvey, listen to me.
Be honest with me.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
You're seeing your potential. Unafanya kazi nzuri sana.
Na tukilinganisha na zile recommendations ambazo tulipewa na Inspector Torome, we believe this is the right fit for you.
Hey! Unataka nini wewe?
Unaniumiza.
Unataka nini?
Unaniumiza. Unataka nini kama utaki?
There are rumors that you have another family.
Rumors that I have another family. Well, this is my family, and I think it's one.
What do you think?
Welcome back. The Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls High School in Hayega, Kakamega County has been closed indefinitely after 2 students reportedly succumbed to bacterial infection. Over 500 other students are said to have been infected with the bacteria after consuming contaminated food and water. In a letter to parents and guardians, the principal urged parents to closely monitor their children who are receiving treatment at various facilities. One of the deceased is said to have died in Bungoma, while the other, who reportedly had not resumed classes after the half-term break, passed on Sunday morning at home in Navakolo.
We've had a consultative meeting with the stakeholders, identified a number of areas that needs our immediate attention. Some of them requires us to partner closely with the county government to address them comprehensively, because these are recurring events. We have learned that in April last year we also had a similar situation. So we need now to sit down strongly with our partners, the county government specifically, and the leadership of the county, who have also come strongly. And we've had a very good meeting that we've gotten proper directions. And I think it's in the interest of the child and interest of our school. We would want our children to learn in a safe and clean environment. And we also would not want them to miss their lessons for a long time. And so we've agreed that we are going to suspend learning for some time as we address the key issues that we strongly believe have led us to this.
Tens of farmers in Naivasha have been rendered homeless after illegal herders invaded their Utheriwalari farm in Maimahiu and set it ablaze. Farm chairman Stephen Moiro said property of unknown value was destroyed. The attack comes a week after about 8,000 members moved back into their land. This is after the court in January issued a 30-day eviction to the herders who had encroached on a section of the 22,000-acre land.
Kitu pikipiki zetu, mahindi, maharagwe ya watu wetu ambao wanaweka hapa wameharibu, na kusudi yao ilikuwa waharibu hii nyumba yote na ofisi yote wakijificha usiku. Na hii ni maneno ambayo inajulikana, watu hao wanajulikana, na si watu ambao wanafanya hivi wakakimbia wakaenda sijui Turkana wapi. Manyumba zao ndio ile, nyumba ya mwingine iko pale. Kwa hivyo tungetaka hatua ya haraka ichukuliwe.
Lakini kwa maana koti ilisema eviction na wakapatiwa 30 days waondoke, na hawa kuondoka. After 30 days sasa imeenda karibu 90 days. Tunauliza the county commander ndio aliambiwa hawa watu watoke. County commander wa Nakuru, unagojea nini? Unagojea manyumba ngapi chomwe hapa? Unataka ofisi yetu tufanye nini? Kwa maana sisi ni watu 8,000 tuko hapa. Ama ina bara ni.
Now let's talk business. All Carrier 1 and 4 geothermal plants in Naivasha are set for rehabilitation in a 6 billion shilling deal between the Kenyan and German governments. The partnership will enhance the government's target of increasing their use of renewable energy in the country by injecting a further 40 megawatts to the national grid.
Renewable energy sources generate over 80% of Kenya's electricity today, placing the country on its way to meeting its goal of transitioning to 100% clean energy by 2030. As of 2022, the country had installed over 170 megawatts of generation potential from solar power, with nearly 2/3 of that amount having been added to its grid in 2021 alone. In line with this, the partnership between the Kenyan and the German government will allow for extensive geothermal expansion that will see the country become a major exporter of electricity in the region.
Kenya is actually leading in terms of climate change, and we want to move it to 100% by 2030.
Additionally, it also aims to increase electricity connectivity both in urban and rural areas.
Kenya will be a net exporter of power to Europe. Wanaleta magari zao, tunauzia power, and will become a rich country as we export power to the rest of the world.
Stakeholders say the rehabilitation of the power plants will allow for sustainable development that will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the required rates.
This is what is contributing within and then the others to where Kenya is producing green energy so that our people can get jobs, so that our people can have more money in the pockets.
Ndutamo Kami for Lunchtime News.
In other news, savings and credit cooperative organizations should move at speed to create a more shared platform in preparation for the rollout of an inter-market lending framework. Cooperative Alliance of Kenya Chief Executive Officer Daniel Marube says the newly launched 800 million platform will enable shared payments and inter-SACCO lending, among other shared SACCO services.
The Cooperative Alliance of Kenya says its 800 million shillings tech platform will secure member savings and minimize cases of fraud in credit cooperatives.
Tech is aimed at uplifting our cooperative movement in terms of their financial operations, efficiencies and security to a higher level.
The Cooperative Alliance of Kenya says the platform is a precursor to the rollout of the Central Liquidity Facility this August.
This platform will be an enabler of cooperatives to collaborate together so that we can have a shared services to enable cooperatives and SACCOs to borrow from each other.
The SACCO interlending is expected to drastically reduce costs incurred by SACCOs to recapitalize to address short-term needs such as overnight lending.
Instead of each society or a SACCO spending 300 million to buy a similar system, collectively now we are saying that money can be given as loans to their members by using this platform.
The government is contemplating capping of inter-SACCO platform system sharing at 30 SACCOs in a raft of measures aimed at regulating inter-SACCO lending.
Be setting a reasonable number of SACCOs that one platform will be allowed to now provide service.
Benson Ruba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Leaders in Embu are calling for amendment of the Crops Act to pave way for establishment of a Macadamia Board of Kenya and allow farmers to jointly market their produce. The leaders say selling as a block will cushion farmers from exploitation.
Available reports suggest that about 90% of macadamia crop is grown for export in Kenya, thus making it the second largest exporter and the third largest producer of macadamia in the world. Kenyan farms currently produce an estimated 41,000 tons, constituting about 20% of global supply. In 2013, the Crop Act was established to accelerate the growth and development of agriculture, enhance productivity and incomes of farmers and the rural population by improving efficiency of agribusiness and develop agricultural crops as export crops. Embu County leaders now want the act amended to bring the farmers together and ensure they trade as a block while cushioning them from exploitation.
Kwanza kabisa hiyo sheria ambayo iliwekwa ya kusema shelled macadamia should not be sold out of the country, tunataka hiyo regulation itolewe. Ndio wale walikuwa wanatununulia macadamia especially Embu wa China wakubaliwe walete wakuja wanunue macadamia na wapeleke huko kwa wakatengenezee kama tumeshindwa kutengeneza na bei nzuri hapa.
The leaders say a bill will be presented in Parliament for the establishment of the Macadamia Board of Kenya to steer the management of the nuts and in a bid to help farmers.
We have a look at macadamia regulation as a committee and see why the farmers are not well considered in that regulation.
Frederick Mwoki for Lunchtime News.
Castor oil lubricants have made a comeback in the Kenyan market thanks to a deal with Rubis Energy Kenya. An app about oils has also been started as part of the deal, which will help sensitize motorists on various aspects about their vehicles or motorcycles.
Working with a partner like Rubis, we can now offer Castrol products back to the Kenyan market. Castrol is now blending in Kenya. Castrol is now blending in East Africa.
In addition to that, we are going to partner with spare shops, distributors, resellers. We are also going to sell our products to industries, so it will be everywhere in Kenya. And once again, it's an exclusive partnership between Castrol and Rubis.
Financial institutions should diversify to digital lending and using technology to reach out to more investors seeking funding to start income-generating activities. DIMK's DT Sacco CEO Benson Macharia told members at the Sacco's annual delegates meeting that automation of services and products is a key enabler for growth.
We are also embracing technology so that they can be able to get services away from our branches. In the 2 years to come, we are planning to become a Tier 1 Sacco in Kenya. We have an asset base of 5 billion, and we are going to grow this through SME banking and also ensuring that we we take advantage of the partnership with the government and other institutions to grow our loan book and our assets. I think the issue of the taxation, there is the advocacy body which has taken over that, and I know the government that is in place has a good will in growing the cooperatives in Kenya, and they are going to address the issue.
Crude oil prices have surged after several of the world's largest exporters announced the price cuts in production. The price of Brent crude oil was trading above $84 a barrel in Asia after increasing by more than 5%. Here are the details of these and other stories making headlines across the globe.
The increase in crude oil prices came after Saudi Arabia, Iraq and several Gulf states said they were cutting output by more than 1 million barrels of oil a day. In addition, Russia said it will extend its cutoff of 500,000 barrels per day until the end of the year. Crude oil prices soared when Russia invaded Ukraine, but are now back at levels seen before the conflict began. However, the U.S. has been calling for producers to increase output in order to push energy prices lower. High energy and fuel prices last year helped to drive up inflation, the rate at which prices rise, putting pressure on many households' finances. Meanwhile, Brazil is actively promoting the green energy transformation of its automobile industry with bioethanol. Bioethanol can be extracted from sugarcane, and Brazil is the world's largest producer of such plants. By leveraging the proportion of bioethanol usage, Brazil was less affected by the global oil price hikes. Besides, bioethanol is more eco-friendly, turning out 90% less pollution than conventional gasoline. At present, a total of 80% of vehicles here are powered by bioethanol and bioethanol gasoline blends in Brazil, while traditional diesel vehicles only account for less than 20%. In petrol stations across Brazil's urban and rural areas, pure petrol is no longer available, and regular petrol has been blended with 27% of bioethanol. Finally, warmer temperatures in Italy disrupted the growth cycle of crops such as asparagus, which ripened ahead of schedule this year. For the winter of 2022-2023, the average temperature in Europe was nearly 1.5 degrees Celsius, higher than in previous years. As a result, crops including asparagus, pumpkins and melons went on sale sooner than in years past. Asparagus typically goes on sale after March in Italy, but the vegetable was available in markets as early as late February this year. Most of these early market asparagus were produced in the northern region of Verona, where farmers harvested them up to 15 days earlier than usual.
In other news, families from informal settlements of Kawangware, Kibarage and Kangemi have received food donations from Ananda Margar Mission. Elsewhere, there was a moment of anxiety at Naivasha Sub-County Hospital after two groups clashed over the control of services in the busy facility. These and more stories in the County News Roundup.
The residents from Nairobi's Kawangware, Kibagare and Kangemi areas received food and non-food stuff from Ananda Marga Mission, situated in Westlands. According to the Ananda Marga Mission chairman, Dinesh Kumar, the mission plans to establish more centers across the country.
Together to create the opportunity of 5 minimum requirement so that everyone will get the food. Every citizen of Kenya will get the food. So let's come together and put our efforts.
Elsewhere, there was a moment of anxiety at Naivasha Sub-County Hospital after two groups clashed over the control of services in the busy facility. Trouble started after the management suspended the services of Stega Security Company and replaced them with another company from Baringo County.
Naomba hayo mambo iangaliwe, maana isipotekelezwa kama tusipopata jawabu mzuri kabisa itatubidi tuende kotini. Ya kama makesi zile zingine zote tutaenda kotini pia. We seek injunction for this new security. Ndio tujue kabisa was the procedure well for.
Kwanza ni locals wetu ambao ni vijana wanaenda kupoteza kazi zao. So ningeuliza county government ya Nakuru kupitia management ya hospitali itafanya jambo gani ama inachukua mikakati gani kuhakikisha kwamba vijana wetu wapotezi kazi.
Meanwhile, in Nyeri County, an anti-drug abuse campaign walk was organized to raise awareness on the abuse of drugs by students. The campaign organizer, Eunice Mwathi, observed that the initiative has greatly reduced cases of drug use in schools.
The importance for this day is to create awareness to the community, the schools, and to ensure that we are fighting drug and abuse.
At the same time, Gusii Bunge Sacco has realized a profit margin of 10 million shillings due for disbursement to members as dividends. Its chairman, Asha Moronya, has revealed.
Our capital base, our total asset portfolio stands at 70 million, and this has been achieved for the last 10 years or so. And of course, you understand the quality of clients that we deal with. These are young people whose income is a bit low, and normally they do not have a source of income.
In Embu County, the German Research Foundation has awarded Dr. Mark Otieno, a senior lecturer in agroecology in the Department of Water and Agricultural Resource Management in the University of Embu, a research grant worth 106 million shillings. The study will look at night-flying pollinators in the reproduction of coffee and papaya crops, while noting that there has been a worldwide trend in the decline of pollinators due to several factors that involve human activities that negatively affect them.
So this is how much this bee is actually contributing towards your pocket. Now, with that language, a farmer is able to save or to protect this particular insect or the habitat that this insect lives in. You cannot protect what you don't know. You protect what you know, and especially if it's bringing money to your pocket, then you are motivated.
Finally, the Kenya Internally Displaced Persons Organization will petition the International Criminal Court seeking to have 4 top opposition leaders investigated for inflammatory conduct, among other crimes.
Sisi leo tumetangaza hivi. Tumeanza correction of signatures. Tumeanza correction of signatures ambazo baada ya kuzicorrect tutafanya application ICC ikuje hapa iweze kutathimini machafuko yale yameonekana Nairobi na pia machafuko yale yameonekana Nyanza.
And our news making headlines in the sports world. Newcastle United leapfrogged Manchester United into 3rd place in the Premier League table after a 2-0 win, avenging the Carabao Cup final defeat against the Red Devils. Meanwhile, Paris Saint-Germain suffered a 2nd consecutive defeat following a 1-0 loss to Lyon at a Parc des Princes stadium.
A fine hit from Longstaff.
Meanwhile, Paris Saint-Germain suffered a 2nd consecutive defeat following a 1-0 loss to Lyon at Parc des Princes Stadium.
For the young star,
In the Italian Serie A, champions-elect Napoli suffered a third Serie A defeat of season as they were demolished by reigning champions AC Milan 4-0.
In space, Salimakis with the skill. Is this number 4?
King Orimwangi for Channel 1 Sports.
Results. An incredible evening.
Former world number 1 Daniil Medvedev won the Miami Open title for the first time by beating Jannik Sinner in straight sets.
The in-form Russian seed broke the serve twice in the opening set before powering to victory. This was the fifth Masters 1000 crown of his career and his fourth ATP title of 2023, following wins in Dubai, Doha and Rotterdam. Medvedev, a runner-up in the Indian Wells last month, continued his impressive form to win in just over 90 minutes as Sinner tired in the second set after putting up a fight early on.
The 2023 men's singles champion, Daniil Medvedev.
Well, that report brings us to the end of our lunchtime bulletin. Thank you so much for choosing Lunchtime News. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ke. My name is Jackie Wimbiro. Sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Tell her to show her face.
I think that Amparo is hiding from my son.
And who might you be? I'll be the new vet of Las Bandidas. Nice to see you, Cáceres. It will be a pleasure to have you at my beck and call, veterinarian. What is it you're not telling me, Zenaida? Where is Amparo?
Amparo ran away from home. She left with my son, Ruben.
Nataka nikusaidia aje?
Hii ni ofisi yangu.
Vizuri, sasa utanisaidia sasa.
Lakini huwezi kula ugali na sosa, ndo nakuuliza utakula na nini?
Wewe ni nani kwanza? Uendi? Yes. Uendi? Siendi.
Mambo yangu sasa hivi.
Rambisa, weka. Lazima hiyo. Asali, weka asali.
Nimesema nya, sija.
Okay, mbona unanyanya ja? Umekuja na chief.
Si chibu, huja anaitwa bottom.
Anaitwa bottom up.
Unajua wewe kila mara nakuja hapo, wewe unahusia mimi uoga sana. Natakanga tu unikule akili kila mara. Leo sasa fanya vile wewe unafanyanga kama umekasirika.
Hello, you're watching Initiative Africa. My name is Asha Sampath. Welcome to your weekly magazine featuring Africa on the move through smart innovations and initiatives that work. This week we focus on education with a promising new digital platform. And with our guest, we explore the question related to the future of journalism in Africa. Well, it's time for Initiative Africa. Let's get on with the show with our top stories today. The protection of journalists in Africa is his mission. Like Reporter Without Borders, Sadibou Marong monitors the evolution of the profession. that is undergoing radical change. His vocation is to track down abuses against the media and their representatives on the continent. He is our guest today.
We often see journalists are stuck between the hammer of armed terrorist groups and the anvil of the defense and security forces. These are difficult situations. But in this context, we advocate that information must remain pluralist.
All your lessons and notes at your fingertips. This is the revolution proposed by the educational platform Magowe, which is expanding rapidly in Guinea and the sub-region. Every morning I check the attendance on my phone, not with a paper register. It also helps me bring up the students' grades at the end of each month after I finished evaluating the pupils. How a district well known to Africans in Paris has denied its sulphurous reputation. Architectural revival, enthusiasm for designers, a place of social ties. Chateau Rouge is waking up.
People have to come. They should come to discover what we're trying to showcase here so that it changes their perception of the neighborhood.
In Guinea, there's now an app to track learners' progress at school as well as at home. Magowe, the digital platform created in 2019 by a young computer scientist from the country for students to revise and monitor their schooling, is now in full swing. 15,000 users and 100 schools use it in Guinea and even in the sub-region. Our correspondent from Conakry, Sanyon Koma, has the story. It's a real revolution in this primary school located in the upper suburbs of Conakry. For 3 years now, Noelle Lama, a teacher in this school, has been using her mobile phone as a working tool. The smartphone is not only used to make phone calls, but is now part of her teaching equipment. Every morning I check the attendance on my phone, not with a paper register. It also helps me bring up the students' grades at the end of each month after I finished evaluating the pupils. This digital platform, which today improves the Guinean education system, is the work of this computer scientist, Mazougou Diopogui, a graduate of the University of Guinea. The scientist has just developed this digital portal called Magowe Technology, 100%